Topping today's news, a young husband stabbed to death in Pinewood Gardens, allegedly by his wife's ex-boyfriend. The government believes the new disaster risk laws are a step in the right direction. The nationwide cleanup campaign resumes, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs expresses his displeasure with a local bank reducing over-the-counter transactions. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jerino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News. It's a pleasure to have you join us. A stabbing last night leaves one man dead and two people in police custody. According to Police Press Liaison Officer Chief Superintendent Chrislyn Skippings, the incident unfolded at a residence on Thatch Palm Avenue, Pinewood Gardens, shortly before 8 p.m. Preliminary reports reveal that the 34-year-old victim was at a residence on Thatch Palm Avenue when he was attacked and subsequently stabbed. He was transported to a hospital by emergency medical services personnel, where he later succumbed to his injuries. Police are questioning a 40-year-old female of Thatch Palm Avenue and a 20-year-old male of Cambridge Lane in connection with this incident. Police are aggressively investigating this matter and are again appealing to members of the public to find alternative ways to resolve your conflicts, as violence is never the answer. This marks the 123rd homicide for the year. The new Disaster Risk Management Bill 2022 seeks to provide for a more effective and comprehensive disaster risk management policy and framework through establishing a new authority that will deal with risk management and related matters. This is a significant step in the country's development, according to Miles LaRota, Minister of State in the Office of the Prime Minister, who has responsibility for the management of disaster preparedness. He led off debate in the House of Assembly on the new bill when they began on Wednesday. Mr. LaRota says it is the position of the government that there should be a more nimble, agile regime as it relates to disaster risk management.
Adopting a robust disaster risk management governance framework is essential to ensure that a nation is resilient to disasters. This is acknowledged by the UN Sendai Framework Agreement for Disaster Risk Reduction 2015 to 2030, signed by the Bahamas in 2015. The Sendai Framework aims to substantially reduce disaster risk and losses in lives, livelihoods, health, and the economic, physical, social, cultural, and environmental assets of persons, businesses, communities, and countries by 2030.
In September of 2019, following the devastation of Category 5 Hurricane Dorian, the former Free National Movement administration established the Disaster Preparedness Management and Reconstruction Authority. The new ministry was to work with local authorities, including the National Emergency Management Agency, or NEMA. Minister LaRota says, as it relates to disaster risk management and reduction, the former system was an ad hoc regime. He believes approval of the new legislation will provide for a more effective and comprehensive disaster risk management policy that will preserve the good practice of existing legal frameworks.
1. The establishment of a responsibility framework on DRM for all government levels and DRM processes. 2. Establish a comprehensive set of instruments to implement the DRM policy. 3. The coordination and articulation of the DRM policy are to be carried out at a hierarchical level equal or higher than ministerial. 4. The articulation of DRM policy with other sustainable development-related policies such as climate change adaptation, water resources management, and land use planning.
The minister says this new Disaster Risk Management Bill 2022 is a landmark piece of legislation which the government hopes will go a long way in putting the Bahamas in a better position to deal with the after effects of a natural disaster. The reverse osmosis tank on the island of Eleuthera is back up and running since Monday. This is coming from Acting General Manager of the Water and Sewage Corporation, Robert Deal, during a press conference in central Eleuthera today at the plant. Ministers of the government, along with board members, giving the media an update on the water restoration being done and long-standing issues with water contractor Aqua Design. Our Destiny Johnson has more in this report.
Member of Parliament for Central and South Eleuthera, Clay Sweeting, along with board members of the Water and Sewage Corporation, the WSC, traveled to Central Eleuthera to visit the osmosis plant and give an update on the water supply issues on that part of the island. For several months, water supply outages have been affecting businesses, households, and all daily activities. Acting General Manager of the Water and Sewage Corporation, Robert Deal, while apologizing for the lack of water supply on the island, says this past Tuesday, all stakeholders met with the water contractor Aqua Design to gain insight into what has been happening with the plant and to outline the way forward.
Essentially, we've been challenged here in terms of being able to produce water on a consistent, reliable basis. Part of that is because of challenges with maintenance of the plant, and so we'll be taking several steps. One, as you see on the next slide, we have moved a portable desalination plant into position, and we're working to get that hopefully connected and electrified in very short order to improve the production capacity at this facility. Right now, the production capacity is around 450 to 500,000 gallons per day, but that's also the system demand. And so what it means is that every drop of water we currently produce is being used by the system. We have to get the production capacity above that so that we would have spare capacity to build storage, but also to be able to take off some of the existing desalination trains, as we call them, take them offline one by one to also carry out required maintenance works.
Aqua Design has had a long-running dispute with the state-owned water facility over money owed to them and their inability to supply water on a consistent basis. Chairman of WSC and Member of Parliament for North Eleuthera, Savanius Petty, says there have been many external issues preventing them from parting ways with the company.
One of the challenges that we had is 4 days before election, it was a contract signed for 8 years, I think 8 years, 10 years. So that's one of the legal challenges we have right now. But we have the minister, who's an astute lawyer, he's dealing with it. The prime minister also is looking into their contract. So we're not pleased. I'm telling you, we're not pleased. And we're going to try, and we met on Tuesday with the stakeholders. They promised us that they were going to fix a lot of issues that we have in here. One of the issues that we have with them is they never have their technicians on ground. They never have anyone at the plants. So it's up to water and sewage staff to check these plants and report, like, okay, the machine is down. Right now, we have, in North Eleuthera, we're operating at 50%. So this may happen in North Eleuthera any minute now. It's a matter of fact of, it's not if, it's only when.
Now, as for what is next moving forward to prevent and correct issues like this from reoccurring, Chairman Petty says a potable 250,000 gallon a day reverse osmosis plant owned by WSC will be installed in the next 2 weeks. They have also ordered a 2 million gallon storage tank for an additional 2 to 5 days of water storage in case of plant interruption, rather than the 1 day storage capacity that they currently have. MP Sweeting notes that this is a vexing problem and says he hears the cries of his constituents.
It's being considered. Yeah. It's being considered because right now we have to put our heads together, and because we can't charge people for salty water. I mean, the water is terrible, and like I say, I want to apologize to the people of Eleuthera, and we're working and doing our best to correct this issue. So I can't answer and say what we're going to do with the bills at this point. So we will be. We have a board meeting on Tuesday of next week, and so we're gonna, the people of Eleuthera are suffering enough. So we don't want to put bills on you for salt water. I'm sure the salt water is free. You could go right there and get it. So hopefully for Christmas.
They can consider it a Christmas present.
A Christmas gift from water and sewage.
Some residents have experienced damages to personal items because of the high salinity of the water. The chairman asserts that all residents calling in with concerns and complaints will have them dealt with swiftly. He adds that the relaxation of water bills is also being considered. For JCN News, I'm Destiny Johnson.
The multi-million-dollar nationwide cleanup campaign on New Providence and the Family Islands has already begun and will lead up to the Bahamas' 50th Independence Golden Jubilee celebrations. Minister of Environment Vaughn Miller inspected ongoing cleanup efforts in the Southern Shores area. He says the second phase of the initiative began this past Saturday, and he estimates the cost of the entire project to exceed $5.5 million.
We commence in the constituencies of Fox Hill, Freetown, Centerville, Engliston, Bain and Grantstown, and Fort Charlotte. The second phase we began on Saturday past, Saturday the 3rd December. It included the constituencies of Yamacraw, Elizabeth, Seabreeze, also Carmichael, Southern Shores where we are, and the Great Golden Isles constituency. We began with the removal of derelict vehicles. And then the next phase is always the removal of bulk waste. And that's what we're doing here on this depository site in Southern Shores.
This initiative will continue until the 10th of December and will resume in January until the 50th Independence Day, which is July 10th, 2023. As for residents who may have trash and derelict vehicles around your homes, Minister Miller provides these instructions to assist the efforts of cleanup crews as they come around.
We're asking residents to place their bulk waste at the front of their properties, and persons will gladly remove them. Also, for elderly persons or for persons with special needs, if they are not able to put it to the front of the properties, the persons responsible for collecting will be happy to go on the property, in the back of the property, wherever they have to go, to remove the bulk waste.
Vacant lots will also be cleaned up as part of the initiative. Director of the Department of Environmental Health Services, Melanie McKinsey, says a title search will be conducted on neglected vacant properties, and the government will have several options on how to deal with such properties. The Ministry of Environment is also trying to get the message of no dumping, no littering into the hearts and minds of the public to prevent the need for more mass cleanups.
We used to have a very active program with the Clean, Green, Pristine program, and we are trying to reintroduce that, make it a little more modern, where we're using, electronics, because children today, they're into that sort of thing. We're trying to get them to understand how they can contribute. Because we find that when the children understand it, then they can tell the parents. They say, okay, mom, don't do that, and they'll be able to explain why, and that connectivity, because I think sometimes Bahamians don't really see the connectivity between my littering and consequences.
Minister Miller says he hopes by the end of the campaign, the culture and mindset of cleanliness is reintroduced to the Bahamas. And finally, in this segment, many Bahamians and people around the world say they feel as though they are being basically kicked out of commercial banks and forced to bank online. Fred Mitchell, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Public Service, who has publicly expressed his frustration with many services going cashless, is also critical of commercial banks drastically reducing the services they offer to customers. He takes issue with a recent decision by one of the popular commercial banks announcing that beginning in January, branches in the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos Islands would no longer process over-the-counter transactions which can be done online.
Once again, the banks are diminishing services in the Bahamas public to the Bahamian public, and the regulators seem helpless in the face of it. The latest insult is First Caribbean announcing the elimination, it appears, of tellers in the Bahamas, so now that you will have, if you want cash, you'll have to go to a machine for cash and talk to a machine. Their statement said to their customers that this is the vision for banking in the Bahamas for the future. Well, we've seen the future, and we don't like it at all. They need to think again.
The decision by CIBC eliminates 12 essential services from over-the-counter, including cash and check deposits, check cashing, corporate and small business deposits, withdrawals under the daily ATM limit, credit card payments, and money transfers. JCN has also learned that the Royal Bank of Canada has recently canceled all standing orders and advised their customers to make money transfers and payments online for their loans. Many Bahamians are calling on the government to provide the public with more banking options where in-person customer service remains available for those who prefer not to bank online. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.